The brand split had clearly lost some of its structure. Pay-per-views had gone from brand-exclusive events back to combined cards, and stars were drifting between shows more often.
That was due to just like, I guess, stars being on different brands. You can't like really, have a feud.
Oh, what's up? Oh, what's up?
It's Samaje back here with another video. Today we're about to be getting into a video by Wrestling Mafia. The video is going to be on the rise and fall of WWE Draft, Raw versus SmackDown, man. Oh man, I used to enjoy all these times. The prominent time for the draft was like for me, like the height of it was like 2006 to 2011, bro. And then a subtle revival of it in 2016 to 2017. But like throughout the years, it had just tanked. It had just tanked because they just kept implementing stupid rules. They just kept, adding stupid ass stipulations, letting stars show up on one show, let stars show up on this show when they're strictly supposed to be on that brand. And not a lot of stuff, not a lot of them had like a good amount of star power in like the late 2017 to 2018 when they were still going. So they stopped it for a while and I guess it's back into effect right now, but it's still not making sense. But let's get into the video.
If you grew up watching WWE in the 2000s, you had to pick a side. You were either Team Raw or Team SmackDown. Raw had the big names like Randy, Cena, Triple H, the Intercontinental title, and the main event storylines, while SmackDown was the underdog brand led by stars like The Undertaker, Batista, Edge, Rey Mysterio, the US and Cruiserweight titles, and had better in-ring action.
Yeah. For me, I'm not gonna lie, I always like SmackDown better. I literally always like SmackDown better. It's not even for like in the underdog brand. It's just I just enjoyed it way better than Raw. I feel like everybody liked Raw, but for SmackDown, they had just so many stars. Undertaker, Batista. They had like Edge on there, just causing a fucking ruckus, and I fucking hated that nigga back in 2008. But that's what you supposed to do. That's a wrestler's job, nigga. And nigga, like the brand was just so good back in 2008 and 2009. Those years were just undefeated.
Show had their unique colors and identity. Pay-per-views, we got Raw versus SmackDown matches at Survivor Series, and bragging rights wasn't always this way. Our story starts in 2002. After buying out WCW and the arrival of ECW stars, the roster had become insanely bloated. Yeah. On top of that, without a real competitor breathing down their neck for the first time in years, the product had lost some of its edge. Vince McMahon's answer was to manufacture competition from within. In early 2002, the brand extension was announced. Raw and SmackDown would each get their own exclusive rosters. The storyline hook was that Vince and Ric Flair, who had been feuding over control of the company, would each run one show. Vince got SmackDown, Flair got Raw. On March 25th at Penn State University, the first WWE Draft went live. SmackDown landed The Rock, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and Hulk Hogan, while Raw picked up The Undertaker, the NWO, Kane, and Rob Van Dam, Edge, Booker T, Big Show, Brock Lesnar.
Bro, and oh my God, it was always so fucking crazy to see like when the stars get traded, all the fucking ruckus was going like this. They was like, no. I remember when Cena was traded, bro, and bro, everybody was like fucking just going ballistic. They was like, and the other brand was celebrating. Bro, I miss that type of vibe, bro. Like we gonna never have that type of vibe back unless these niggas really trying to get that shit back. I don't know if it's gonna happen in this era.
Lesnar and Lita were among the picks that followed in the televised portion. Steve Austin was exempt from the entire draft after walking out of WWE following WrestleMania. Triple H, as the undisputed champion, was meant to float between both shows until the title picture settled. However, that arrangement didn't last long. After Brock Lesnar won the belt from The Rock at SummerSlam 2002 and refused to appear on Raw, the title effectively became SmackDown exclusive. Eric Bischoff, now the Raw general manager, responded by introducing a brand new World Heavyweight Championship and handing it to Triple H. From that point on,
that idea was stupid as fuck, bro. I know it's like a story in itself of Triple H taking that fucking whole championship and just holding that shit hostage, bro. He did a good job, but like toward the leg end of it, oh my God.
Brands were truly running in separate lanes. The shows wasted no time developing their own identities. Raw, with Bischoff pulling strings and Triple H dominating the main event, leaned into the sports entertainment side of things with big promos, Kane's unmasking, and Evolution holding down the top of the card. SmackDown went in a different direction with Paul Heyman leading the creative team. He immediately identified 6 wrestlers he wanted to build around: Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, and Chavo Guerrero. This group became known as the SmackDown 6, and their run produced some of the best matches WWE had put on in years. But the SmackDown 6 was just the foundation. Brock Lesnar became the show's centerpiece, trading the WWE title back and forth with Angle in a trilogy that included a 60-minute Iron Man match on free TV. John Cena was developing his rapper character in the mid-card. Randy
On free TV, you'll never get that shit back either, bro. Like, bro, it's a lot of stuff, but like with subscriptions going around nowadays, and you know, TV just being what it is right now, you would never like see like them like trading like championships on like a regular ass like Raw or anything, unless it's like some sort of special occasion like they did with Cody Rhodes and fucking or somebody's pushing for it behind the scenes, like the Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre thing.
Orton and Batista were quietly being trained to become main event stars under Evolution's umbrella on Raw. Raw got exclusive pay-per-views like Unforgiven and Backlash, while SmackDown had Judgment Day, Armageddon, and No Mercy. SmackDown went through some turbulence post-WrestleMania 20 as Lesnar left the company, Angle was dealing with injuries, and JBL was thrust into the main event role. An unexpected choice at first, JBL's corporate villain character found its footing through a heated program with Eddie Guerrero, whose underdog story was the perfect counterpoint to JBL's evil rich guy persona.
Jesus, and this nigga JBL went ballistic, nigga. This nigga went to the, like, they had this nigga like do a segment where he went to the border, bro, and literally started just like telling it. Bro, they did a good job back in the day making this nigga the hated ass heel, bro. Holy shit, this nigga did some crazy stuff.
Separate world titles meant that Raw and SmackDown stayed mostly in their own lane. Brand versus brand competition was mostly limited to the Big Four pay-per-views: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. For a while, even those events kept cross-brand matches rare. The first major interpromotional singles match at WrestleMania came at WrestleMania 21 in 2005, when SmackDown's Kurt Angle and Raw's Shawn Michaels had one of the night's best matches. Orton and Undertaker crossed paths at the same show in a legend versus legend killer feud. These matches felt genuinely special precisely because they were so rare. By the 2004 and 2005 period, John Cena had risen to become SmackDown's face of the franchise, eventually dethroning JBL at WrestleMania 21. Meanwhile, Batista had finally stepped out of Triple H's shadow on Raw, turning face and winning the World Heavyweight title in a story that had been building for months. The brand split had produced 2 credible...
This was the start of them switching roles and Batista being the SmackDown guy, and we know Cena as a Raw guy forever.
Top stars at the same time. But then, in the 2005 draft, something unexpected happened. SmackDown's top champion John Cena was drafted to Raw, and Raw's top guy Batista was traded to SmackDown. Annual drafts meant top names shuffled around with increasing frequency, and the idea that these were 2 fiercely separate brands started to feel more like a short-term arrangement than a long-term commitment. ECW, returning as a third brand in 2006, diluted things further. The Survivor Series Raw vs. SmackDown elimination match in 2005 had a fun build, with Randy Orton getting the win for Team SmackDown. By 2006 and 2007, Raw's top feud was Cena vs. Edge, with names like Randy Orton, DX's Batista rivalry, with Rey Mysterio, Booker T, and guys like MVP and Mr. Kennedy as the supporting cast. The 2 rosters rarely crossed paths, usually at WrestleMania or Survivor Series in brand supremacy matches. But by 2007, the brand split had clearly lost some of its structure. Pay-per-views had gone from brand-exclusive events back to combined cards, and stars were drifting between shows more often. But just as it looked like the whole...
That was due to just like, I guess, like sales not being what it is, and with stars being on different brands, you can't like really have a feud, and you can't really like make like certain people feud with certain people, and if they're on different brands.
The experiment might run out of steam. SmackDown got a shot in the arm. The 2008 draft brought Triple H to SmackDown after being a key player on Raw for years. With the game now on the blue brand alongside The Undertaker, Edge, and Jeff Hardy, SmackDown suddenly had the kind of top-tier star power it hadn't seen since the Lesnar-Angle era. And the show made good use of it. Edge and Undertaker destroyed each other in a feud that stretched across multiple pay-per-views, producing a TLC match and a Hell in a Cell match that became iconic. Jeff Hardy,
Jesus.
after years of teasing a solo breakthrough, finally captured the WWE Championship in December 2008 in a triple threat match against Triple H and Edge.
Bro, this moment was glorious, bro. We finally seen Jeff Hardy like get the win, the big one, bro. We finally get to see him like put that work in, the hard work. Like we liked him as a tag team wrestler, but we always wonder what would happen if Jeff Hardy went solo again and got his right opportunity. He went solo back in like the early 2000s, but like we always wonder what happened when it comes to this.
SmackDown fans who had watched Hardy climb the card for years, it was a genuinely satisfying payoff. However, the year 2009 might be the most underrated stretch in SmackDown's history. The main event scene was constantly moving, involving The Undertaker, CM Punk, Jeff Hardy, Batista, Rey Mysterio, Edge, and Chris Jericho at various points. The feud between Punk and Hardy was particularly special, built around real-life contrast. Punk was straight edge and used that identity to moralize at Hardy and the audience, while Hardy's personal struggles with substance abuse made the dynamic feel authentic. It produced some of SmackDown's best television in years, culminating in a TLC match at SummerSlam 2009 where Punk won the World Heavyweight Championship and then a steel cage match that forced Hardy to leave the company. After Hardy's departure, Punk...
I mean, that was a good ass angle to like, kind of mask what was going on behind the scenes with Jeff Hardy, because like when it came to this, I really thought it was, as a kid, I really thought it was like CM Punk's fault that this nigga left the company. I was just so pissed off. I was like booing the hell out of this nigga, bro. I'm pretty sure that got every kid pissy, because they really believe that this nigga got Jeff to leave, bro. And like I was just so upset, nigga. And then it just came out when I got older. I was like, so that's why this nigga left. It's sad to see both ways.
Evolved his character further into the leader of the Straight Edge Society, which kept him engaged in a long program with Rey Mysterio through 2010. Raw, meanwhile, was going through its own period of reinvention. Randy Orton had turned into a menace to society, punting opponents in the head and feuding with Triple H and John Cena in a rivalry that dominated the brand through most of 2009. The guest host format introduced that year was largely criticized, but the wrestling itself remained strong, with DX reforming and Orton's legacy stable providing constant drama. Both shows had enough identity in 2009 that the brand split still felt meaningful. WWE tried to formally celebrate this inter-brand rivalry with a new pay-per-view concept. Bragging Rights launched in October 2009, centered on an elimination tag match between Team Raw and Team SmackDown competing for a trophy. SmackDown won that first edition and won again in 2010. The concept was fun in theory, but drew modest buy rates, around 181,000 for the first event, dropping...
I feel like, man, like, I mean, it was a cool concept. I liked it because they tried something new, because you always like get used to like WWE not like doing stuff new and not trying new things, but like this actually like was like a good cool ass thing. It was just like a Survivor Series, but like just winning a trophy, but it just felt kind of off. I can give it that.
Further in 2010, it only ran twice before being discontinued. The 2010 draft is where SmackDown's momentum began reversing. Edge and Chris Jericho, two of the brand's most reliable main eventers, were moved to Raw. In return, SmackDown received Big Show, Kofi Kingston, Kelly, and Christian, none of whom were anywhere near the same level of main event credibility at the time. The blue brand was left relying on Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, and whoever happened to be champion, which for a significant stretch in 2010 was Jack Swagger, a pick that didn't quite convince anyone.
I'm sorry, Jack Swagger's cool. Like he was a decent wrestler, but he just had no personality, bro. I ain't trying to be like the bringer of bad news, but he just had no personality, bro. I couldn't get with it. I couldn't actually like believe him back in those days. He was supposed to be a guy, but he was just so bland. Like even when he came back for the 2013, the song was fire. The like Zeb Culture helped him as much as he could, but like it still ended up being kind of flat.
2013, Randy Orton unified both world titles by defeating John Cena at TLC. That was the last piece of the first brand split's legacy being officially closed out. The experiment had lasted 9 years. At its peak, it genuinely changed how WWE operated, gave careers to performers who might have otherwise been lost in the shuffle, and produced some of the company's most memorable moments. At its low point, it proved that without strict boundaries and equal investment in both shows, the concept completely fails. Background noise, and nothing of real substance ever happened on it. The decision to bring back the brand split that year was partly driven by 2 reasons. Reason 1 was that the roster had once again grown bloated as NXT call-ups like Devitt, Asuka, and new stars like AJ Styles and the Good Brothers needed a place to call home. The second reason was that WWE had moved SmackDown to a live Tuesday night format on USA Network and needed a reason for people to care. The kayfabe setup saw Shane McMahon returning to WWE and claiming he could run a better show than his sister Stephanie, with Vince eventually splitting the brands along McMahon family lines. Shane and general manager Daniel Bryan ran SmackDown. Stephanie and GM Mick Foley took over Raw. In July 2016, the new draft took place. Seth Rollins went first.
I'm not gonna cap. This was the start of like me liking the draft again and liking the whole concept, bro. I really fucked with this, man. And like 2016 is really one of my favorite years overall, personally. And it was really a good year for everything. NBA, it was a good year for like overall everything. I feel like everything was perfect because I was still in high school, obviously, and I didn't have to go through like all the payments and bullshit I go through now as an adult. Um, and then like the WWE was so good. They had all wrestlers wrestling. Nobody was fired. Everybody was still happy in one place. But man,
First overall to Raw, followed by SmackDown taking Dean Ambrose, who was then WWE Champion. Stars like Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Finn, and The New Day all went to Raw, while SmackDown landed John Cena, Randy Orton, Styles, Bray Wyatt, and Becky Lynch, among others. Each show got its own set of titles. Raw created the new Universal Championship and got the US title, while SmackDown kept the
the Universal title. That title is just drenched in bad luck.
WWE Championship that Ambrose had brought with him and the Intercontinental title. Right out of the gate, SmackDown looked like the more exciting show. Styles, high on momentum since arriving in January 2016, immediately became the Blue brand's centerpiece and captured the WWE Championship at Backlash. The women's division, centered around Becky Lynch, Carmella, and Alexa Bliss, was fun. The tag team scene had American Alpha and the Usos producing some solid matches. On Raw, the Demon King became the first Universal Champion, but was injured the same night, vacating the title within 24.
This is also the year that the Usos first like turned heel. Well, prominently turned heel. They were heel when they first arrived, I think, on like Raw years ago. But like this was the first like gimmick change type of heel turn. When they were like, oh, the Usos locked down, or everybody locked down, something like that.
4 hours of winning it. Kevin Owens picked up the belt from there and began a long reign supported by his friendship with Chris Jericho. Survivor Series in 2016 was the first time the brands went head-to-head in the new era, featuring traditional elimination matches with Team Raw against Team SmackDown. SmackDown won the men's match, and it was the right way to establish that the Blue brand was a serious competitor and not just Raw's supporting act. From 2017 onward, Survivor Series became fully centered on brand supremacy every November, with champion versus champion matches, elimination tag bouts, and bragging rights on the line. Styles versus Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2017 was one of the best matches of that year. Brand-exclusive pay-per-views returned alongside the split, giving each show its own monthly event. Raw got shows like Clash of Champions and Hell in a Cell, while SmackDown had Backlash, Fastlane, and TLC. That lasted through 2017 before being quietly dropped after WrestleMania 34 in 2018, with all pay-per-views reverting to dual-brand format. The Superstar shakeup replaced the traditional draft from 2017 to 2019, functioning as a behind-the-scenes trade system rather than a televised event. When SmackDown moved to Fox in October 2019, WWE held a...
And that was the downfall right there, bro. Them doing this Superstar shakeup and adding all these little stupid ass rules and stipulations. They try to give excuses of why a fucking certain star showed up on one show and call some like Superstars the wild card, and I was just over it at that point.
Second draft that year, bringing back the proper format. These constant roster shuffles, some wrestlers changing brands 2 or 3 times in a single year, made it increasingly difficult to feel any loyalty to either show. The 2019 Survivor Series saw NXT joining and dominating the brand warfare, stroking Triple H's ego, but making both Raw and SmackDown look weaker by comparison. The pandemic in 2020 accelerated the breakdown considerably. With both shows recording from the same location at the Performance Center and later the Thunderdome, top stars began appearing on both shows regularly with minimal explanation. A wildcard rule introduced in 2019 had already given superstars permission to show up on the opposing brand.
Dumb as fuck,
but the most significant blow to the brand split came at WrestleMania 38 in April 2022. Roman Reigns, who had been SmackDown's Universal Champion since August 2020, defeated Raw's Brock Lesnar in a winner-takes-all match to hold both world titles simultaneously. The result was that the brand split's central mechanism, 2 separate world championships for 2 separate shows, had been eliminated. The Bloodline stable, with Reigns at the center, appeared freely on both Raw and SmackDown, and other wrestlers followed. WWE tried to patch things up in 2023. When Reigns was drafted to SmackDown that April, Triple H, by then in full control of creative following Vince McMahon's departure, introduced a new World Heavyweight Championship for Raw, won by Seth Rollins in a tournament. It restored the 2-title structure, and for a period, things felt more organized. Cody Rhodes had returned in 2022 and been building toward a story culminating in a WrestleMania match with Reigns.
And this right here sort of just made that new title that he implemented feel like garbage. I mean, it just felt like a second-rate ass title because this nigga like gave Cody Rhodes a chance. I mean, well, they made it look like Seth really wanted that nigga to face him, and then like it made it look like Cody Rhodes right here didn't want to fucking face him. He said he wanted that championship, and it was just so weird.
Which finally arrived at WrestleMania 40 in April 2024. Rhodes became the undisputed face of SmackDown, while Raw rebuilt around Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Gunther. As of early 2026, the brand split technically remains active. There are trades, general managers, there are distinct rosters on paper, and both shows have their own world champions. But the lines between them are blurrier than they've ever been outside of the Raw Super Show era. Stars cross brands for major angles regularly.
Bro, exactly, bro. If like they're still having like a whole brand thing, I don't know, bro. I mean, I just know people are just on one particular show, and you know, people just keep crossing over back and forth. CM Punk just appeared on fucking SmackDown today. Oh man, well, it was nice to know like the history behind all of this shit, and nice to know like how what used to be will never be coming back again, bro. Like in like a proper format. Well, like I said, I enjoyed all the older stuff, and I enjoyed all the stuff that I used to have fun with as a kid. You know, seeing what superstars gonna get traded, seeing what people are gonna think of the new draft. Go talk to other people about like, oh, did you see so and so's on this show now? But it just doesn't matter. It's fucking everything up. But I mean, it's just nice to have those memories again. But hey, go give Wrestling Mafia a like, man, and like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy wrestling. And I have like a whole wrestling playlist for y'all to look at if you want to. We are on the road to 500. I'll catch you guys in the next video.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?